Food and Beverage Magazine Live, bringing food and beverage to life. With your hosts, James Beard Award winner Jennifer English and Food and Beverage Magazine publisher Michael Politz. Featuring leaders in the hospitality, branded food and beverage, and CPG industries, many of whom are Jennifer and Michael's friends in the business. For an informal and informative conversation where friends in the business share the latest intel, ideas, and best practices. Live, juicy inside scoop from the tastemakers, newsmakers, bread bakers, drink shakers, spoon lickers, clam diggers, farms, foodies, and friends of the food and beverage magazine world. Here are your hosts, Jennifer English and Michael Politz.
Hello?
Hello.
Oh, I didn't know that you were there. I was reading a chapter on
I
your...
didn't realize we were live. How are you?
Well, I'm reading a chapter out of my book, and I'm learning so much.
Your brand new, just published, best-selling book called
Food and Beverage Magazine's Guide to Restaurant Success, available at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and Books A Million.
This is an awesome book, by the way. Hey, listen.
By the way,
If people listen to our intro, I am still waiting for the publicist for the Spoon Lickers to contact us.
I don't even know what a spoon licker is, but more importantly, I got a call today from one of the heads of UNLV Hospitality School, and they're making my book a requirement to read for the hospitality school, because that's how.
Yes.
For the building that we were at, you and I, that day.
Yeah.
What are you Chinese eating?
So I'm eating some of the most delicious pad thai I've ever had.
I just ordered pad thai and war wonton soup because everybody's away. I'm not supposed to eat sugar or carbs. If they're away, they won't know that I'm eating it. They're not going to watch this, but God knows that. So I'm excited that we're going to be eating the same thing. I wish it would come in a container like yours. For some reason, Vegas, they put them in those plastic containers.
Don't eat plastic food.
Listen, what do we got on for the show today? Because I've got a special guest, my special friend.
Mm-hmm.
And you have other people too, right?
And I have a special friend.
All right, but what about Clara? Is she your special friend or mine?
No, she's our keynote speaker.
Oh, yeah. Oh, what is that? What did I do? I hit the wrong button.
No, really, seriously, Clara Paye. We got to find out how she got started in this. Because
all right, so what should we bring her on?
Revolutionizing a category that is right now, it's white hot. White hot.
And I'm saying, let's find what is the category?
We're going to talk about that right now. We're going to bring her live on Food and Beverage Magazine Live, the founder of Unite Foods. Clara Paye, how are you?
Hey, I'm fantastic. Thanks so much for the great intro. I hope I special. You don't mean the short bus special, but you mean like special, like meaningful special.
No.
We meant the short bus.
Clara, I am so sorry. He has been on a tear all week long. It's like when Ed McMahon used to get a little constipated and it threw the whole Tonight Show off with Johnny Carson.
I don't mind.
I am super excited to talk to you. I'm super excited to meet you. And I'm super excited to introduce people to Unite Foods because you are doing something amazing at a time when companies and food entrepreneurs are looking for inspirations to imagine their own next chapter in whatever the food business is. And you have reinvented just ahead of the curve. So you look like you buy your crystal ball at the most prestigious crystal ball store in the universe. Let's talk a little bit. How on earth did you get into this just at the right time?
Serendipity. It's just so funny because I spent the past 17 years running a plumbing manufacturing business, plumbing and hardware distribution. And so that couldn't be any further from food and beverage. But I stumbled across the idea for Unite kind of through personal experience, the way like a lot of food products are born, and
you couldn't find what you wanted.
Super frustrating, right? So busy executive, I lived at my desk and didn't always have time to take a lunch break. And so I always relied on nutrition and energy bars to kind of bridge me and give me the fuel to get through my day. But I never really liked them. And, you know, I'm kind of a foodie and always been a home cook and just didn't like the flavor of most of them. And I couldn't figure out why, because it's a huge category. Lots of people eat them.
And I'm going to interrupt you because I think it's important to remind people, this is not a new category.
No. So, yeah,
and you could also argue that it was ripe for a disruption, but who knew it was?
Well, and so I just come at food and beverage from a completely different perspective. I'm not, I didn't grow up in CPG. I'm not, so I'm coming as an outsider with a unique perspective. And the problem I had was really flavor and flavor differentiation. So when I looked at the category, I realized that, like, why is everyone making the exact same flavors on repeat? Different iterations. They're all vanilla and chocolate and mint and a berry and a birthday cake or an Oreo.
Life is so vanilla, Clara, isn't it?
Why? So vanilla. Well,
listen,
why don't we have any of this food? Did you get a box, Jennifer, to show?
It's on its way. It's on its way.
So we're a day early on the interview?
But Clara has some to hold up and show us.
Yeah, I sure do. So
I'm embarrassed, Jennifer, that you're eating pad thai and Clara's showing us she doesn't have a pad thai flavor.
Well, how do you know? I haven't told you my flavors yet.
Well, we know it's not chocolate, vanilla, and birthday cake.
No, but it has its roots in this because it was an evocative. There's always a method to my madness, Michael. Just you wait.
Okay. So they're all the same flavors on repeat is basically what happened. And I'm an immigrant. I am foreign born, and in California here, 1 out of 2 of us has an immigrant parent, and 27% of us are foreign born. So, and we have this diverse culture, just like you're eating pad thai right now, Jennifer. We're used to eating diverse food, but this category was not diverse. It was very just one lane of flavor. So,
I'm going to interrupt you again for 2 reasons. One, I want you to tell everybody what your culinary tradition is and what comfort food tasted like to you. And then I also want you to talk about the fact that in product development, there are certain benchmarks of flavor that are easier to hit. And there are some things that are better but harder to get to, both of which are part of your story.
Right. So my cultural heritage is, my mom didn't make me peanut butter sandwiches. She made me halva sandwiches, and she would get in trouble with the teacher for sending me to school with halva. The teacher didn't know what it was. So, it was just different backgrounds. My mom didn't bake me a birthday cake. We always had like baklava, right? So it was always just a different flavor profile that I was eating at home. And as I got older and went to college, all my friends were from like Japan or China or Singapore, all different parts of the world. So was always exposed to diversity. And you're right, flavor development. I mean, when I was sitting with the food scientists, after I kind of came up with my own flavors of my food scientists and then took it to a co-man, and they were like, the flavor houses were just so confused. They were like, why doesn't she just want peanut butter like everybody else? Or why doesn't she just want vanilla and chocolate? Like, why are we like procuring these strange flavors? And so it was really a push. So my first, the flavors that I launched with, the flavors that are most common to like an American or anybody living in America are really like ones that are, have traditions in Latin America and then in American flavors. So I launched with churro. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. It's a churro flavored.
And by the way, you do know that right now I'm talking to you live from Tucson, Arizona, where you could argue that we are the home of the churro.
All right, stop. I don't want to hear anything about Tucson, Arizona today. We have had multiple complaints.
You have not.
I have. You have too much Tucson. People are like, why? It's so hot there. Nobody wants to hear about it. So we don't want to hear about your nest. Any of that. I'm going to cut you out of this show, Jennifer, if you bring it up one more time. Do you hear me talking? I don't talk where I'm from. You might have a stalker looking for you out there. You tell them where you live. Now stop it and be the kind young lady that you are. Clara, go ahead.
All right.
Clara, we do our own show now.
Oh, I love it. I don't mind at all. And the second flavor I came up with is Mexican hot chocolate, which has warming spices in it, a little bit of chili. It's got a dark chocolate coating and base. So this one's really super indulgent. And then
my abuelita made that.
Exactly. Abuelita's hot chocolate. That's what people say. Like that's the highest.
Jennifer, what's funny about that? Why is it funny that my abuelita made dark chocolate like that? She comes in a little disc, my abuelita. I put it in the mole.
That's right.
And I don't even live in Tucson.
Evolved. He's very evolved. And then the third flavor that always throws people off is, peanut butter and jelly. And so really, I didn't want, when I created the brand, it was finding the name that really encompassed what I was trying to do was the hardest. And Unite really is the perfect brand name for us. And we're trying to unite people around food, and we're not about leaving anybody behind. So which is why we wanted an Americana flavor, right? Because this country means so much to me and so much to the people that live here. And I feel it's the best country in the world. So I really wanted to pay homage to all cultures and all upbringings. And so what you'll see in common in our flavors is like nostalgia and childhood, things that remind you of childhood, but just in a different flavor profile.
But Unite Foods also had a mission with regard to nutrition and quality. Can you speak a little bit about how when you came to the category with an intention, not necessarily to disrupt, but to improve, that it involved more than just joining a broad category that was very entrenched in what it was?
Yeah, I mean, it had to taste good, but it had to also be really good for you. And that was like, and I wanted it to be diet agnostic. I did not want it to be a keto bar or a low carb bar or whatever flavor of the month diet that I made functional, high quality, whole proteins. And so, like the first ingredient in our bar, which I think is really one of our differentiators, is like almond butter or peanut butter. It's whole foods, real food ingredients, flavored, naturally sweetened. There's not going to be any funky aftertaste. And then texture was important. So I wanted you to be able to see the nuts and the pieces in the bar. So once you get them, Jennifer, you'll see what I'm talking about, but super important to me.
And so when the world knows that it's heading into quarantine with the kinds of foods that they need to keep on hand, you have a certain advantage.
Yeah, they're shelf stable.
And they are shelves. So talk a little bit about all the ways as an entrepreneur that, and I want you to accept this as the compliment that it's intended to be, because I believe that when serendipity actually does have a role, that whatever you plan, there's a bigger success. If it's the right thing, it's bigger than you could have imagined. But in every instance of success, every entrepreneur, even in plumbing, will tell you we were lucky at certain points to have certain things happen. But luck happens when you're doing the right thing at the right time. So I'm going to ask you a little bit about how luck played a role that you now recognize gave you more than you could have ever planned.
For sure. I mean, people were so, because I launched literally the first week of March, right before the shutdown. And so people were like sending me their condolences. Like, I'm so sorry you spent all this time and energy on this product. I'm like, and I was like, I'm not I don't know any different. So let's just run with it. I have a shelf stable product. Everyone needs food. I'm not worried about stockpiling my pantry because I have a warehouse full of bars. So to me, I can feed my whole city and it's a win, right?
It's a win no matter how you look at it.
No matter how you look at it.
All of which brings us to the spotlight that we wanted to shine on you today.
Thank you.
Because this is a moment where you are every operator, you are every food entrepreneur, you are every food entrepreneur, you are everybody that is right now trying to imagine what comes next. I need you to talk about how important it is to take your passion and all the hard work that you've done and whatever faith you had to sprinkle on the top to make this happen. What advice do you have to learn from what you've done to share with people that are in this moment?
I think it's about honoring your unique perspective. So if you have an idea and you think it's different and differentiated, and you're not just copying somebody, you don't really have a passion for what you're developing, you're going to fail. So if you have a genuine passion, a genuine need of something that's unmet, the key is just the starting, right? Like when the student is ready, the path will appear. It was just the start. I knew nothing about food. I knew nothing about food science other than I was a home cook. And so it was just the starting. And then the next steps appear. And if you're on the right track, the right people will show up to help you. Just like I'm talking to you today, to amplify this message of diversity and unity, and let's bring people together.
I spent the better part of the mornings this week in the audience of a tech conference that last year was held in person, that this year was held online. all about diversity and inclusion. As we continue to have the conversation, how can we reimagine the world that awaits us on the other side of this COVID moment as being someplace where the diversity and inclusion narrative that we weave into whatever we do is going to actually take us further into and up and succeed in whatever comes next? Can you talk a little bit about how that played a role, maybe even happenstancely?
I think you just ran us off the rails, Jennifer. I don't know what that was. What was that?
I think,
do you know?
No, I do. I think food is the perfect instrument of that inclusion. Yeah. I think food unites us. Food intrigues us. You know, food helps us learn about other people and learn about ourselves. So like, you know, I see food as an instrument of that inclusion. And so if you can create a story about your background, your abuelita, your, you know, the custom and the heritage of your food, I think that this is a key awakening point for many people, and that we can use food as a soft way to enter. It's not, you know, food is not political. So food can be. You know
what, Clara, food can bring you back. The taste, the smell, it can bring you back. It's almost like a time warp, right? You can be like, oh my God, whoop, you're 3 years old, 4 years old again in your grandma's house, right? You know what I'm saying?
Settling. Yeah.
And that's how you share your culture. When you're from somewhere else and your mom makes something for you to share with your friends, sometimes there's shame around that. Like, oh, mom, my friends aren't going to like that. But then when your friends do, you're like, wow, like, okay.
Clara, did that happen to you, honey? Is that something that you
all
went
the
through?
time? Are you kidding me? When I married
I don't know. You should never have been that. That's okay.
My husband had never even had hummus when I married him. I was like, did you live under a rock? Like, how have you not had hummus?
Right.
He's just like, you know, American, you know.
And what's your heritage, Clara? What's your heritage?
So I'm Sudanese. I was born in the Sudan in Africa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I came here when I was 5, didn't speak a word of English, was kind of just dropped into kindergarten and, you know, have that like typical immigrant story. And, you know, dad that worked really hard in a family business, grew it. I helped run it, and then, you know, started this food business.
That's amazing.
Clara,
now, where can people go get your product? Where do they get the Unite?
Unitefood.com or Amazon.
Is it called Unite Bar? Is that what it's called?
Unite Food. Somebody's squatting on my Unite Bar name, which I'm very upset about, but it's Unite Food. I'm starting with bars, which is why I didn't call it Unite Bar, but really I see, you know, food isn't just, ethnic food should not be in one aisle of a grocery store, right? Like it's time to like expand and like, let's bring ethnic food and ethnic flavors to every aisle. Because
here's a weird question, Clara. Have you been to an Asian market before? Have you ever been to an Asian market? Now, is there only one American? Is there just one little half an aisle of Americans for that?
I don't think so.
I mean, I'm in Vegas. I've been to some Mexican supermarkets. I've been to some Asian supermarkets. And I really only find a half an aisle with Jiffy peanut butter. It's interesting, right? How's that pad thai, Jennifer? How's that pad thai, Jen? Good? She's the best. All right, so it's unitefood.com. Is that where people are going to be going?
Yes, or Amazon. We're on Amazon. That's an easy way too.
Well, they still have to look you up, though, right?
Yeah, you just type in Unite Food, high protein bars.
How did the name Unite come to you?
I was so stuck on a name, and literally, so I figured out I'm most creative when I'm walking. So I just took a walk and a hike, and was thinking about what was I trying to accomplish through this brand, and it was really to bring people together. And I couldn't, you know, Unite was the name that came to me. And then I went on the trademark registry and it wasn't trademarked.
Which is shocking. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
You know, let's be honest, Jennifer, where do you do your best thinking? I mean, she walks and then she came to Unite Food and then went through the process. And
but
you can read about that process in my book. But go ahead, Jen.
Do you know why, though? Because only when you're allowing your mind to wander can you get true inspiration. Most of us are moving so fast and so focused that we don't let our mind wander and be free. And only when you wander and let your mind wander can you wonder and be inspired.
Where do you wander when you wonder? Where do you
Honestly, my best ideas come in the shower.
That's my number 2.
Jennifer, I don't know if you know what this means, because I know you have that James Beard Award and all, but TMI. That means too much information.
You asked me a TMI question. I'm going to give you a TMI answer. Clara, you know, though, that James Beard, the father of American gastronomy, said that food unites us. that nobody had taken that literally and taken action on it. That's why I'm saying I was so thrilled for you that it was available, and I was so surprised when I read that.
Yeah, it was another strike of that serendipity we were talking about.
How are sales? We're going to end this soon, but how are sales? Are they big? Are they strong? Are you in huge production? Are you a multi-zillionaire yet? Are you the queen of
we just launched in March. We just launched in March, so I'm not multi-zillionaire yet. But sales are good. We have a lot of interest. We were on the cover of your magazine, which was amazing for us and getting kind of our word out there. So we have a lot of interest. We're just starting to talk to retailers, but I would say sales are strong. And I'm always, curious how people find us, and we're getting a lot of word of mouth. So it's great.
We're going to help. Can we help? We're going to help. We're going to help. You have my email address, which is most important here. I know Jennifer would like.
Right.
I can move product, right? That's what we do.
That's
we
true.
move.
He can do that. He can eat a box of bars a day.
I could eat more than that. Believe me. Yeah, but only if no one's home. Because if they're home, then I can pretend they don't eat it. See what I'm saying? They don't know. Someone's closet eating. Who is it?
Guys.
So we're gonna have you on again. Can we have Clara on again, Jen?
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Well, what I'd like to do is I'd actually like to give Clara an assignment. I'd like to make her part of our family. Well, she's one of our friends, but I want her to be part of our team because she is out in the world talking to people right now in a way that is unique. And food entrepreneurs don't realize that the marketplace is waiting for them, because where we used to go to restaurants and we used to do all the things we used to do, we need to find alternatives in all manner of ways. And it's the kind of thing that Clara's tapped into. And I really want her to come back and report on where she's finding opportunity, because like so many people out there right now, there is a world that's waiting for us to reimagine and reinvent.
Would love to. Sign me up.
We love to. What was that? I just got a blank in my ear. I got a boop in my ear. It was weird. Running this board is hard. Clara, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
We appreciate having you on. She's amazing. Jen, amazing.
Clara, I have to say, congratulations. I am so thrilled for you, because the subtext of what I heard today was that this really is a mission and a passion. And I love it when people tap into what they're supposed to do and let the magic that comes with that be part of your life. Because you have to be courageous to sort of let go and let it happen.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm courageous that I cut Jennifer off because we'd all be asleep if she kept going.
No, but it's one of the biggest
mistakes. And by the way, when Jennifer writes an article for me, she asks me how many words. And if I say, I have to literally tell her 6, and then I'll still get 500 words. Right, Jen? All right, Jennifer, we got our green room is full. They can't even breathe in there right now. It's 6 foot. They're not even. I've got 4 or 5 people back there right now waiting to come on. So, Clara, we love you. We love your product, and we're going to stay in touch, and we're going to help push whatever we can, and keep sending us your press releases and your information, and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Congratulations.
I'm going to be in Orange County, Clara, so I want to get some bars while I'm out there.
And I can send a swimsuit to your kids. I have another swimwear line. So if you're 3-year-old, yeah.
Well, I have a 3 and an 11-year-old daughter, 3-year-old boy. But let's email after the show.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks. Bye. A swimsuit? What is she going to meet me? I mean, come on. I got a private birthday party to go to. I don't know. Jennifer, we have got some people lined up right now backstage. I don't even know what to do. I have got one of my special friends. I know you've got some of your special friends. What do you think? I think you want to have your special friend on first and let mine end the show?
I think so, because I think your special guest has some food. And if the food's ready, I think it's a strong way to finish. Because one of the things I heard from everybody yesterday was how much they loved having food on the show.
I heard they liked watching you turn around and cook.
It's my best style.
Was that misogynistic? I don't know, but I'm just telling you what I heard. It was my best side.
Yes. The back.
I'm Don Lemon, and I'm just reporting the news. Okay, so let's bring on your special friend.
So she's been on with us before. She's going to be on with us again. She's one of the country's most acclaimed writers and culinary journalists. She's been published for over a decade in the finest food magazines. She's written multiple award-winning books, including one of my all-time favorites, Sweet Hands. And And she joins us now from her home and test kitchens, where the coconuts are not falling off the trees as they did when she was a child, but they do spiritually in the world around her. She joins us now, the one and only award-winning, beautiful writer, Ramin Ganeshram. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? It's good to see you.
Thank you for bringing the Caribbean to the table today.
Thank you. Thank you. It should be at every table every day.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that we are eager to have you on, because right now seems to be this moment of conversation about inclusion, inclusiveness, and diversity. And all of us are reaching out, trying to do the best we can if you're empathic and thoughtful and caring and kind. And nobody wants to be tone deaf and on the wrong side of any of this. And I'd like to get a sense of what has been your experience as a member of the food journalism and food media world, and someone who is one of the world's leading experts on some of the most important multicultural issues relative to food. What's your response been? Has your phone been ringing off the hook?
I would say, yeah. I mean, it's interesting, right? Because right now I'm also the director of a history museum. So I've been having a lot of conversations. I will say that. And it's interesting because food, as you have often said very accurately, the convivial table is a place where people can discuss things that they may not otherwise discuss. And sort of the systems around food and the legalities around food and the way food has been produced, certainly in America and the former British colonies, have everything to do foundationally with race and ethnicity. So I have been having a lot of conversations. And it's interesting because depending on who you're speaking with, the conversation has to have a certain, all conversations should be thoughtful, but they have to have a certain tenor because you want to meet people where they are. Just like at a table, right? You're not going to have somebody at your table who's only ever eaten peanut butter and jelly and say, here's some lobster. Well, you're not going to do that, right? You might start small and say, here's a tuna sandwich first, and let's go to some flounder, and then let's work our way up. And I'm finding that it's very similar when it comes to this.
What difference does it make to have this conversation if you are an immigrant, first generation, or Miles Standish the 13th?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I think the first difference is that the further you get away from that original immigrant, the further you get away from that original person who was the person who came to this country, the more disassociated you are with what one has to kind of deal with and absorb and transform, and the code switching we always talk about, right? The code switching that you have to do to kind of to make it and to survive and to thrive in this culture. So that's very different. I think
is another way to say that is juggling the be as in beingness and become as in what you will become in your beingness, and that difference between be and become is where we get confused or torn.
I mean, I think to some extent, I think that for people of color and for immigrants, it's also the issue of the become, right? You know, there's the become that society tells you should want to aspire to, and the become that feels right in your soul and doesn't dishonor your ancestors. So, I mean, that has a lot to do with it as well. And I think that, you know, when we think about these issues, what we really have to think about is, you know, the thing that everybody says, which is that obviously America is a country of immigrants from the very beginning. But as a historian, what I often talk about is that we have to be very careful about is the idea of long ago and far away, right? So people can say to themselves, that happened long ago. It happened far away from where I particularly live. I'm from New York City. I live in Connecticut. And I do a lot of work around in the museum I work at in the history of African Americans in this state. And the far away part of it is that people here in New England, and I know you're originally from New England, think that, oh, slavery and Jim Crow and race bias and systemic racism, that's the South. That's far away. or it was long ago in the earliest part of this colony and not as late as in the state of Connecticut, 1848, and much further. So that's something that I think we really have to think about. I think we should all as Americans constantly be asking ourselves, am I falling into the long ago and far away trap to distance myself from issues that are really important and continue to be important right now?
What is the comment that you have to then follow up with about the taking down of statues all over the country? Because were those testaments to long ago and far away that lived in the here and now?
That's a really good question. In fact, that is the one question I get asked a lot. So I can only tell you my personal opinion on that. And so first of all, foundationally, I would say that, being a scholar, I often like to think about the rule of law, how it's worked against people and how it's worked for people, or how it simply has worked. And when we think about the South, particularly, when we think about the Confederacy, and we think about those statues, let's look back at the rule of law. And those are individuals who, by the rule of law, committed treason in their time. And by the rule of law, there were rules for that punishment. So the aggrandizement that comes with statues kind of promoting the Confederacy, I think that if we even take it out of emotion and ethics and morality, which we should still do, but let's take it out of that, I am personally in favor, and the historians I work with are in favor, of the idea of that's a separate issue. Removing Confederate statues, completely separate. We think it should happen, but we also think there should be interpretation. Remove Confederate statues, certainly, but keep some aside, not in the public forum to be kind of worshipped and looked up to, but in a museum to interpret accurately.
And are people making comments about the oppression that historically people seem to have felt that they're now releasing as a relief, having felt like this was a symbol of the oppression that I was under for centuries?
I think that's true. What I always worry about is that, so that's absolutely true, and that's absolutely accurate. And all of us want to kind of, in those scenarios, immediately dismantle the symbols of that oppression. But I think that, we have to remain thoughtful in a way as to essentially reach across the table so that everybody can meet at the same place and finally get to that place. So I'll tell you, I often think, and historians like me often think, that it's a case-by-case basis. So I'll give you a perfect example. In the town in which I live, many of the founders of the town and many of the people after whom things were named were owners of enslaved people.
Right.
The high school is named after a man who himself did not own enslaved people. He was too late for that, but his family certainly did. So someone said to me, well, would you advocate taking his name off the high school? So that's a case-by-case basis. That particular man was a 20th century person. He endowed this school. So I would say no, but I would say that in the school, there should be a plaque that talks about he had privilege and multi-generational wealth in large part because his ancestors did own other human beings.
Right.
So it's kind of a balance.
Well, and I don't want to get into this today, but if you're the major shareholder founder of a sporting goods company that everyone sports on their feet and in their golf bag and on their basketball and soccer ball, and you find out that the balls were stitched in Pakistan by children, how is that any different? And the acclaim isn't a statue today. The acclaim is a different kind of fame where we're lauding and applauding with our pocketbooks and our dollars. I don't want to get into that today, but this is not a news story. It's an old story that exists today. We just don't tend to think of it as a today story. But the thing I want to stretch to and encompass, we're gonna, like every good dinner party, we're gonna go around the table a little bit on this. You originally are from the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. And you bring traditions to our table today and sensibilities to our table today. And rather than talk about the the politics of it. I want to talk about the heart and soul of it, because earlier in the show, we were talking about how food unites us. And throughout the show today, we're going to continue to be talking about how we're united by food. Let's talk a little bit about how, as a first-generation Caribbean islander coming to the United States, what your experience has been. And as a person of color, what your flavor experience and your food experience and your food uniting experience is, because you've brought a special guest to our table today too that we want to bring on.
So I was born in New York City. My father came from Trinidad in the West Indies, and my mother actually came from Iran in what is often said the Middle East, but it's actually, if you look at it on the map, it's not really the Middle East, it's in Asia. But anyway, so, you know, my experience was that so for example, we didn't really have packaged food in our house. We really didn't. The things that a lot of people my age think of as really nostalgic American food, Wonder Bread, right?
Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, we didn't really have it. And when we did, it was a treat that we had these things, right? The idea of family coming together and eating at the table was really important. Like even in my family today with my own child, the idea of, what do you mean people just grab things and go and eat as they need to? Like, that's insanity. That doesn't happen in an immigrant family. You sit down and you eat what was prepared for you. We often joke about the idea of seasoning, highly seasoned food. Like that's a really important aspect. And in fact, I told you, with respect to my friend who was going to join us, my brother of my soul, of my heart, what we're going to talk about is something that he has brought to the larger culinary world, that island to island, the seasoning changes.
Because
right?
Let's go back one more time. The history.
Your brother is backstage.
I know he's waiting.
Waiting. He's like, geez, get me up there.
So let's have you introduce him. But I want to talk about how we're tying it all together. The Caribbean islands and the spices and the spice islands and the spice routes and the spice trading and the ships that brought them and the slaves that were involved in this. I mean, there's such a rich and complicated tradition, and yet you can't eat cinnamon and nutmeg and allspice and ginger and cloves and all the rest of it without nodding to the islands and the flavors of the islands, which you've done so magnificently in your book. So please introduce your brother, as you say.
So I'm so honored to introduce Jackie Summers, who is, as we say, my brother, my there he is.
Look at him.
Oh my gosh.
Look at that.
And he created a liquor brand. He's also a child of the Caribbean. His ancestors are from the Caribbean. And he created a brand called Sorel, or what we commonly call it is Sorrel. And he has a funny story about why the name is a little different for his brand than what we call it, which is a drink made from hibiscus flowers that is sourced in West Africa. So it was brought to the Caribbean from by enslaved Africans who brought that to the Caribbean, where then it was grown as the Roselle hibiscus. And a lot of your viewers in your area and in the Southwest will know it as Jamaica, because it's also drunk in Central America and South America. So I'm going to let Jackie talk, but that's he's really keeping our heritage alive in a very modern and chic way.
Let me introduce Jackie. Can I welcome Jackie to our show, Jennifer?
Yes.
Jackie, welcome to our show. It's been fabulous texting with you backstage.
Thank you.
So where are you? You're in New York right now?
Brooklyn!
Oh, you Brooklyn boys.
Brooklyn people need to do that. I apologize.
Yeah, we have to.
I know. And what Caribbean island is your family from? Where in the Caribbean?
My mother's parents are from Barbados. My father's parents are from St. Kitts Nevis. So I've got coconut on both sides.
Isn't that beautiful, Jennifer? This is a beautiful
I
thing.
love his Bajan soul. That is awesome.
This is, by the way, you're not the only Caribbean man I've talked to today.
There's a few out there.
I talked to Mojo Morgan for an hour this afternoon. I couldn't get him off the phone. You know the Morgan Heritage Brothers, right? They're all from Brooklyn.
Yes.
So, Jackie, tell us what it is. I'm trying to have Mojo call in because I think that would be fun. Jennifer told me not to. No, Jennifer said don't have Gramps call in. So I was going to have Mojo call in instead. See, Jennifer, how that works?
We have Jackie Summers, the man who was originating. This is the next Saint Germain. 10 years ago, they introduced Saint Germain, the elderflower liqueur from Scandinavia, from France, and it took off in the cocktail industry like wildfire. And every drink seemed to be made with Saint Germain. With our focus on the agave spirits, the Southwest, and the flavors of Jamaica and the flavors of sorrel. This is the next Saint Germain. It's going to be huge. It's going to be huge.
I will tell you the big difference, and the reason I think the competition development at the moment, with all respect to Rob Cooper, he started with $20 million, and he had a history of distilling. He was the grandson of the man who made Chambord. Yep. He started with not a small fortune, but with actually a large fortune, and his brother made Canton. The joke in liquor is, the best way to make $1 million is to start with $10 million. He started with $20 million, and Saint Germain was a fantastic, revolutionary, groundbreaking product which absolutely changed the rules for the game. I started with nothing. Right. I literally had no background in hospitality whatsoever. I knew nobody in hospitality. I had no background in food chemistry, and I had no money. And Sorel is probably the second highest rated liqueur in the world, right behind Saint Germain.
Yep. What's going to happen with this proliferation of agave spirits from all the tequilas, then onto mezcal, bacanora, sotols, and then on into the clear spirits categories? The opportunity for what you've brought to the party, for where we go next, for the cuisine from myriad regions, but particularly from the West, Southwest, and on through the South, all bringing in those elements, not only of the islands, but throughout Latin America. This is fantastic. Talk a little bit about the tradition of hibiscus liqueur in the cultures of the islands.
Hibiscus, as my sister said, first started to be imported from West Africa in the 1600s with the spice trade. And they would make a tea of it because it has all these great nutritional health benefits. It's an antimicrobial, it's anti-infectant, it's a natural
it's antifungal.
It's antifungal, it's a natural diuretic, it's a natural what's the word for
blood
the stuff?
Pressure?
No.
Blood pressure.
Horny. What's the word for the stuff that makes you horny? Aphrodisiac.
Yes.
I forgot the word for a second because I've been quarantined for a long time. They would make this tea, and all of the British naval officers had a stipend of rum as part of
daily pot of rum.
Put rum in the tea to preserve it, and then as my sister said, depending on where you landed in the spice in the islands. In the spice trade, you would get a different mix of spices. So if you're in, say, Jamaica, you would get cardamom and allspice. But if you went deeper in the spice route, like Trinidad and Tobago, you'd get cinnamon and nutmeg and rum. So all of these different versions of this exist, and every Caribbean family believes they make the best version. I actually do make the best.
It's kind of true. Yeah.
When and how do you drink it?
There isn't a when if you're Caribbean. The when is when you have it, you drink it. And
do you have a bottle to show us? Do you have a bottle?
I do not have a bottle, and it would mean getting up, and I'm in my kilt today.
I love that
because I've given up pants since we've been quarantined. But it is this beautiful red, rich magenta color. My version has cinnamon, nutmeg, clove, ginger, and hibiscus leaves. It's about the strength of a glass of wine. So you can literally sit down and drink a bottle in one sitting. The great part about it is the ginger almost perfectly masks the flavor of the alcohol. So you never taste booze, you just feel booze. And the people who drink more than a glass, one of the things that I say off the record, which is now on the record, nutmeg is a mild narcotic. So if you drink a lot of it, you don't really get drunk, you get a little high.
Same thing with the mace, the exterior coating of the nutmeg.
Yes.
How do you know, Jennifer?
Because if you put my Chiron up, Michael, it says Mrs. Spices. I've been a professor of spices for 25 years. And one of the things I'll tell you is that we all need more spices in our day-to-day life. And one of the food revolutions.
Hold on. I got somebody spicy. I got a spicy guest for us right now. It's popping on. There he is. Mama Morgan. Mojo.
What's
Mojo,
going
you
on?
need to listen. You need to listen to this. Jackie, meet Mojo.
What's going on?
You need to hear about his brand, Mojo. Mojo Morgan from the great legendary band, Jackie. Legendary band, Morgan Heritage. Jackie, talk about the brand so Mojo can hear this. This is amazing.
Because I'll bet you anything, the Morgan family heritage must have their own version, their own recipe.
Let me hear it.
So the short version is when I launched this brand in 2012, again called Sorrel, not Sorrel, because I have a speech impediment. I did not know it at the time, but I was the only Black person in America with a license to make liquor. Handful of winemakers, handful of brewmasters, handful of people who either had import licenses or contract bottling situations, but an actual DSP holder, just me. I was Tigger. I was the only one.
Congratulations.
That's a beautiful thing.
It wasn't a beautiful thing. It was really, but I have a particular sort of disability. I don't know what I cannot do. So I had no idea what I was trying to do was impossible. Every single time I walked into a restaurant or a bar, people had no idea that Black liquor brand owners were a thing. Every time I taught a sales team, every time I met with a distributor, every time I sat in the boardroom, it was more likely that people have lived experience being in the presence of a lion, a tiger, or a bear than of somebody like myself.
I like to call Mojo my bear, but sometimes he's my kitty. Mojo?
My kitty is sleeping somewhere.
So where is the product available right now, Jackie?
It's not available right now, and I'll tell you why. The brand did so well in the first 3 years that the big boys came for me. I signed a multi-million-dollar contract in 2015 to take the brand national. The company reneged.
Whoa.
I negotiated a second contract to completion within 6 months. Again, I was in a three-way bidding war with three of the biggest liquor companies on the planet. Completed that contract. Looked the lawyer in the eye. He said I'd have paper. He said I'll have paper for you. I'll have papers for you in 3 days. That company reneged too. What I found out was that they all loved the brand and thought it was a hit brand. They wanted the brand, but they did not want me.
Mojo and I are starting our own brand. Mojo, why don't you talk about that for a minute? Maybe we can work with Jackie, your Brooklyn brother.
Island vibes, yeah, man.
That's what your answer is? Okay. He talks so much more when it's just me and him. I'm a little embarrassed to have him on the show, Jennifer. Usually I can't get him to stop talking. I don't know what's going on now.
Well, Mojo, what I have to ask you, Mojo, does your family have a recipe for this hibiscus liqueur that they made?
I don't know about the liquor part, but definitely hibiscus. We call it sorrel.
Yes. But what island are your people from?
Oh, we're from Jamaica.
And then yours doesn't have rum in it? I'm from Barbados. Everything has rum in Barbados.
No, what we do is we add a little Ray and Nephew rum in it to preserve it.
Right.
So it doesn't spoil fast. And
right.
There are some people that will spice it up with a little red label wine just to give it some more kick. But traditionally, it's a family drink, so you can't put too much alcohol in there. We drink it primarily towards the end of the year holiday season, Christmas, New Year's Eve, because it's a plant that bears fruit once a year.
Mojo, what spices does your family put in it? Because I know your family's famous for spicy.
So we go with pimento, we put ginger, and we boil it with those two spices when we're boiling the sorrel, and then we strain it off and sweeten it
Right.
With brown sugar. If you want, you could touch in a little lime, and of course the white rum as a preservative only.
And there are a lot of people in the audience who are familiar with pimento as a red pepper that goes in a cheese. When we talk about pimento in the spice world, of course, we're talking about an alligator pepper, or otherwise known as allspice.
Allspice, correct.
In fact, the cocktail world knows it as pimento because the king of cocktails, Dale DeGroff, has a bitters that he produced called Dale DeGroff's Pimento Bitters, made with allspice. And it is one of the most acclaimed and best-selling bitters in the marketplace. Hey, where did Ramin go? Because she had...
She's here. I just wanted to look at Mojo a little larger because he's so handsome. We can bring Ramin back.
Take me off then.
There she is.
Hello. I want to say a couple of things. So just kind of as a point of history or culinary history. So allspice, pimento in Jamaica is actually the real basis of jerk, right? If you don't have pimento wood to smoke jerk, jerk seasoned meat, you don't have jerk, right? So it's funny, like there's some wonderful jerk brands for the seasoning, but I always say, it's not quite. You need to have that, which is actually, I think, still illegal to import the wood in the United States. But you know what I want to say about sorrel, or sorrel, as my brother calls it, and it is actually because he had a speech impediment and he couldn't say sorrel, that it's sorrel. As Mojo said, it's a family recipe. We all make it, particularly around Christmas time, right? And, like in Jamaica, they put ginger, whereas in Trinidad, we do not. I do, which my Trinidadian relatives don't like, but I like it, the Jamaican way. But the thing is that when Jackie created Sorrel, the liquor brand, it was like, oh my God, why didn't anyone think of this? Because you make it, and then you do, as you said, put a little rum in it as either a preservative or as a cocktail. The adults might do that, but it was just one of those things that's just like so everyday to us. Nobody thought about actually creating a brand. It was brilliant. It was just like, how did nobody think of that up until this point?
People bottled it as juices in Jamaica for quite some time now. They've been doing that. True Juice does it. Grace does it, and you can get it all over the world. And there's different smaller mom and pop brands that also bottle it.
Yeah.
And sell it at the Caribbean restaurants and different.
But without liquor.
Without liquor. So I applaud you for thinking of that, 5 years ago, because we got into the liquor or the game, the idea came to us to get into the liquor business with Michael, our partner. About 2 years ago, we were on tour and we came up with, the name of a tour, which was Island Vibes. And it was like, let's just have our own rum. And we're going on tour with our Island Vibes rum and this and that, yada, yada. And when we were introduced to the concept of RTDs, I said to Michael, coming from the islands, we got to do fruits and flavors from the tropics. And sorrel was one of them. So I can see why he thought it would be interesting for me to join this forum and, discuss what you're doing with sorrel.
Well, there's actually a technical reason I found out why no one had ever successfully made an alcoholic version of sorrel that was shelf stable. Every Caribbean family puts rum in their sorrel. Rum has its own dissolved particulates, its own dissolved sugars. It never combines on a molecular level with the particulate in the base mix, which is what makes it go bad eventually. I was the first person to use, instead of a rum, a neutral wheat grain base. So it's actually certified organic, certified kosher, but that 190 proof wheat grain base goes in, and it actually creates a pectinate. It creates complex polysaccharides, which attach on a molecular level to all of the particulate. You remove the particulate, and what's left is crystal clear and shelf stable, lasts for years.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my innovation to the culture. Is I was the first person to figure out how to make it last for years.
Impressive.
Damn, Jackie, that came out of nowhere, all that molecular talk.
No, if you know him, that doesn't come out.
Look.
He's a
Oh my God.
genius. He's actually a genius. I'm not saying that.
You guys from Brooklyn. Mojo, you guys from Brooklyn. I don't know what's going on around here. I never met anybody from Brooklyn, Mojo. I don't know any guys from Brooklyn.
What?
You know me?
Storyteller.
Michael, one of the other things, how I'm going to tie this all together. So Ramin Ghaneshram wrote a book that has been widely considered the world's best on the topic. She wrote the biography and well, it's not a biography. It's a fictionalized historical novel about George Washington's chef named Hercules. She's someone who did a tremendous amount of research and understands, the value of doing that research in creating this book, which is why she also works in sort of her day job, if you will, in the Historical Society. But the name for the state of Connecticut is the Nutmeg State. And why do you think the state of Connecticut is called the Nutmeg State? Because I'm going to let her tell us.
Actually, so at the time, nutmegs were really, really, really valuable, and they came from the West Indies. They were extremely expensive. Wealthy people carried them around to show how wealthy they were. They had very fancy nutmeg graters, which they would grate and snort nutmeg. And people in Connecticut were thought to be so crafty and wily because they would make fake nutmegs out of pieces of wood and sell them to people as if they were real. So it's actually a commentary on the craftiness of the nutmeggers, Connecticut people. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, this is very educational. Very educational, Jennifer.
And all of this has to do with the trades in both commodities and lives. That is the focus of this moment in time. And if anything, we learn anything from today's show, besides food unites us, it's easy to unite us because, in fact, we're all the same. We are all one. Trying to tell us that we're not, that's not going to get us anywhere. And it's such an important thing for us to think about as we take each tentative step in this time of COVID crisis, in this time of, racial outrage, and in the different parts of the country, like where I am, where the wildfires are raging. The world is madness right now, but it's a cleansing madness. And all of this, as I heard today in a conference, this isn't garbage what's happening. This year is fertilizer to make what comes next blossom and bloom. Will you all talk a little bit for us before we have to wrap this up? Will you talk about how you're thinking about what comes next? Do you see this as a moment of opportunity? Are you looking forward with not just hope, but dreaming, passionate, mission-driven, futuristic hope?
I think
Can I help on this one?
Yes.
So I want to argue the food unites us point. Food should unite us in theory, but speaking specifically about the liquor culture in this country, so much of it is owed to Black people, and so little of it is owned by Black people. Right. It's been proven that a slave taught Jack Daniels how to make liquor. None of that slave's descendants got to benefit from that. It's been proven that cocktail culture was created by Black people.
Wait, is that the new brand Uncle Nearest? Is that what that is, Jackie? Is that who that was? That
is a descendant of Uncle Nathan, who was the slave who taught Jack Daniels how to make liquor. Cocktail culture came from Black people. Dive bar culture came from Black people. So all of this, not just infrastructure and wealth, but culture, was created by Black people, and we get to benefit so little from it. We own so little of it. So the change that I want to see is I want to see the people who create this culture to benefit from it the same way other people have. That would be the change I want.
Fair.
We are tired of being owned. We deserve to be owners.
Well, you protected Jennifer's tongue on that. Woo!
Hello?
Mojo, I want to know, how are you in this moment in time looking forward? What do you see coming next? Is it opportunity, or are you a little worried?
Do you see pineapple wine coming next?
I'm not worried at all. I think this is a great reset for society, for the financial industry, for us as humanity to really just take a step back, look at how far we're coming from, to be able to properly navigate where and how we want to step forward into the future. That's just how I personally view what's going on now, because there's a lot of change that needs to take place to bring a certain level of financial equality, to bring a certain level of systematic equality, to bring a certain level of cultural acceptance, which is what our brother Jackie is talking about with the challenges he's been facing, trying to bring his product to market. And if we as humanity can just on a human level deal with each other how we would like to be dealt with, the world would be a better place, and it will become a better place. This may sound messed up, but it's gonna take a few generations to die, and I don't know how to say it any more blunt than that. It's gonna take a few generations to die for everything to be how this younger generation that we've given birth to is living with their peers, where they're on a level playing field. But the mindset of the elders and the leaders today, they don't see it like that. And so until a lot of those guys are dead and gone, we're gonna have more of the same. It sounds harsh, but just think about it on a human level. You can't go to agriculture. You can put two baby trees together and create a new tree, right? You can graft them together and create a new tree. You can't do that with old trees. You can't bend an old tree. There's a reason why there's all these old monikers are saying where it's like you can't teach an old dog new tricks and you can't bend an old tree. There's a reason why those things come into manifestation in our daily lives, because it's a reality. And it's hard the older you get, it's the harder to teach you new things.
Ramin Ghaneshram is a scholar and an author and a owner.
Hold on, Jennifer.
What?
Jennifer, Ramin, believe it or not, is going to stay on with us for our next guest.
Oh, I love that. But I wanted to say one thing.
You can't say it. You're going to have to wait.
Well, no, it's totally germane. It's totally on point. Ramin wrote a book in 2011.
Yeah, we know.
About
a novel about a teen chef. Oh my God, called Stir It Up, Jennifer. Why are you stealing my thunder? Why, Jennifer?
Go ahead.
And what about also an award-winning book called Future, IACP winning a book called Future Chefs? Mm-hmm. So guys, Jackie, Mojo, I love you. Thank you, my friend, for coming on last minute. And go back to the sports arena where the kids are playing. Jackie, thank you. Good luck with everything. And anything we can do to help you at Food and Beverage Magazine, we're here for you, budty.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Nice to meet you all.
You too.
All right, buddy. We love you, Mojo. All right. So now, thank God we got rid of those guys. They would not stop talking, would they? So now what we've got, you're not going to believe this. Ramin, you're going to be so excited. And this kid is going to be so excited to meet you. We are going to bring on a teen chef who's just starting out in the world, right? He wants to be a doctor. He's going to be a doctor. This kid is so bright, so crazy, so charismatic. I grew up with his mother, and all she was talking about was this kid, Ethan. I was like, enough with Ethan. But now the whole world is going to know Ethan. Let's bring him on. Ethan. Should we bring him on, or should we show a video first?
Show the video first.
Really? Okay, let's see if it even, I haven't even seen the video. Is this it right here? Let's see what happens. Ramin, I want you to watch.
Yes, sir. Dinner is served.
I mean, is this the greatest kid? Here he is. Teen chef Ethan Balsamo.
Hello, everybody.
I grew up with his parents.
Hello, Jennifer. Hello, Ramin.
Hello.
Ethan, move your camera down a little bit. You got too much headroom.
There we go.
There you go, bud.
Perfect.
There you go.
Nice.
Handsome boy.
Thank you. I try hard.
Chef Ethan, welcome. When did you fall in love with food?
So, it was a while back. I think I was about 9 or 10 years old, and my grandfather, he was really good at cooking. That's another dish I made. he was one of my pioneers in terms of, getting me into cooking. He, taught me, the basics like eggs, pasta, meatballs, all the, basic elements of, food. He started teaching me that. And then what really took off is when my uncle, who is the head chef at the Ritz-Carlton in Bachelor Gulch, he's really, influenced a lot of skills.
Jasper, say his name, Chef Jasper.
Chef Jasper Schneider. He has given me a lot of tools to use, a lot of resources in terms of, the tools, the equipment, and a bunch of different skills from sauteing to flambéing to, laminating the pasta dough, all of that good stuff.
When we talk with our friend Ramin, who's wrote a book, Future Chef, what is it about this generation, Ramin, and how food literate and food inspired these kids are? Where does this come from?
Well, when I think about it, it's a number of things. So the first thing is, this is the generation that has never known a world without the Food Network, right? The three of us remember the world without the Food Network, without food TV, without people creating lifestyle on social media that didn't exist for us. So we could compartmentalize it. So for them, it's part of their everyday life. It's part of the entertainment of everyday life. I think that has a lot to do with it. I think also that this is a generation. I have a 14-year-old daughter who was allowed to experiment in the way that we didn't. My parents would have said, "You're not wasting ingredients." Although I have to say, I say that to my daughter sometimes because she's not a teen chef. She just likes to mess around my kitchen. But, generally, I think most parents my age, I'm sure I'm roughly the age of Ethan's parents, will say, yeah, go for it. Try it. Do something different. And that's given them a lot of confidence. And also, they can go into a supermarket and buy things we couldn't buy when we were young.
Right.
And they walk to this. Why don't you, Ethan, tell Ramin, because you were always in the grocery store. He goes to pub. Tell her all the whole process. Like, so you tell me the crazy stuff.
So usually what I'll do is I'll plan a meal out usually on the morning or the night before. And what I'll do is I'll make sure I have enough cash to go out to the grocery store. Our local grocery store here is called Publix. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I walk, sometimes I drive, and I'll just grab all of the ingredients. I always do quality assurance on them to make sure that they're up to my standards. Then I bring them home. I do my second quality assurance, cleaning, prepping, cooking. And then I, take videos of myself doing it. I take pictures of them. Sometimes I upload them. Sometimes I don't. And I enjoy what I'm doing in the kitchen. 99.9% of the time I enjoy it.
Chef Ethan, will you talk a little bit about what it means to be a teen chef? I think that from our perspective, we understand that you're a teenager. We understand that you're a chef. But when we think about chefs, we then think about Barbara Lynch and Jean-Georges von Richten. I mean, we're not thinking about teenagers. Help us make the connection between what it means to be a young person and being a chef, and change how we think about the word chef right now.
So that's a good point. So, all of those inspirations like Jean-Georges and all those, lot of, pioneers, it's very different in terms of, one age and experience. I think it's interesting to see, how younger and younger chefs are starting to, kind of take the wheel a little bit and try to put their own modern twist on, old traditional stuff, whether it be like Marco Pierre White in the 1980s or some young, Magnus from Iceland, he's 24, it's really interesting to see different perspectives and different, generational twists on, traditional versus modern.
Will you talk a little bit about the role or your understanding of what that sort of traditional Escoffier cuisine is, and how important is it to stay true to it? How important is it to reimagine it?
So I think, it is important when you start cooking, from whatever age, you should know the basics. I think we should stick kind of true to the basic stuff, like a classic spaghetti and meatballs, spaghetti, it's kind of something you could stick with. And if you wanted to, pursue that further and you wanted to kind of modernize it, so to speak, you could improve upon that, greatly. It really all depends on also if you really want to, be driven to do it. I know I'm very driven, to try to make myself better. I mean, I've still learn every day. I learn something new about food every day. Like just this past day, past week, I learned how to flambe some flan, which was really cool. You know, you got to try to pay respects to the traditional, but also kind of respect it in the way of a modern twist on it.
Are you guys impressed with my little Ethan? I mean, look at this kid is in school. He's just his hobby, his passion. He's the big Ethanator on the Instagram, right? Ethan, is that what it is? Big Ethanator?
Big Ethanator. That is what it is.
Right. And if you go like every day, I'll call his mom. I'll be like, yo, you're having macaroni and cheese tonight, whatever it is he's making. And she'll be like, oh my God, what did he do now? Right. But they love it. She's like, I have to stop him. He will spend so much money in the grocery store. Right, Ethan? We know how that is.
Yeah, like today I went to the grocery store. I bought some steaks, I bought some mushrooms, I bought some potatoes, and I'm probably going to end up doing that tomorrow or Saturday. Tomorrow or Saturday.
Now, Ethan, when you go to the grocery store, do you talk to the butcher and those people in there? Or how's your relationship?
Sometimes I would. That's because I didn't really want to select my own meat that was already like prepackaged or all the meat products. I usually like to see the person and I like to see them cut it so I could respect their craft. And then I would receive said pieces of meat and then I would go. But now, since we're more in a COVID-ish environment, I have noticed that I have the tendency to be a very, busy shopper. I'll be in and out of the store in 15 minutes. So I'm pacing all the aisles, going fast. I sometimes say hi, but that's only for like a second. And, it's fun to, see, the butcher do his craft. But now, since there's restrictions, in terms of, social distancing, which we have to do. It's been a little less and less, I've noticed for myself.
Chef, what grade are you in?
Ramin has a question.
Oh, no, I just want to say that I think Ethan makes a point that I think a lot of young people should really take to heart. And I think, which is that you need the foundational skills of cooking. You need to understand, it's like trying to build a house without a foundation. You're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to be able to create and be creative if you don't know the basic things. And when you go to culinary school, you start out very simply and you start out very small because you need to learn those basic sauces and knife skills. And then you can go crazy once you've mastered that. And
yes.
I think that's important. It's an important thing. It shouldn't hinder you. It should be an exciting sort of part of your journey.
Correct. And yes,
Ethan, tell them what's going on, how you have been hired by a family to do meals and teach their young teenage daughter, which Ethan, I believe he's using as a ploy to meet girls. And I want you to tell us what's really going on in that kitchen, because chefs are known to be a little mongrelly. You know what I mean?
I get it. Miss Jennifer, to answer your question, I'm going into my senior year in high school very quickly. Yes, I'm going into my senior year. And then the person that I am teaching her, I don't think I'm going to say her name because, anonymity is a thing. Before, I met her 2 weeks ago. She didn't really, know how to use a microwave per se. But now, I've taught her the basics. I taught her how to grill meat. I taught her how to make mashed potatoes. I taught her how to make, an apple pie from scratch. And I think since our last meeting, I think 2 weeks ago, our first meeting, I think she's made 4 apple pies since, and they look exactly like mine. And I'm trying to expand, and she's also trying to expand upon her culinary knowledge. Yesterday we did fish. We did fish for the first time. She never did fish. Next time we'll figure out something else, but it's probably going to be something new she's never really made before. She's probably had it, but she hasn't really made it. So it's a real good learning curve, for her, but also for me, so I could go back, to redo some of the old nostalgia trips, if you will.
Chef Ethan, what would you say is the one most important food skill that you think every person, young and old, should have? If in the look around you, of all the things that you could teach this student or any student, what's the one thing you think we all should learn?
I think, there's a lot of things you should learn. I think all of it's very important, but I think one of the most important things, in my opinion, I would say, are knife skills, because that is where, that's like what Ramin said. You can't have a house without a foundation. You have to have, You have to have those basic knife skills. You got to know how to cut stuff to put it, get it ready, separated, organized. So that way, when you do make your dinner or whatever, breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever it is, you have it there and you have it cut up specifically. The knife is really important. It's also, people think it's really scary the first time. Yes, it is. They're correct in saying that, but you have to become you get more confident as you practice. First time I did knife, I almost cut my fingertip off, and I still do that every now and then. It's something to always learn. It's something you should always learn and keep honing that craft.
Jennifer, Ramin, I know, has to go, but there is one thing I want to show her before she leaves. Do you mind if I do that really quick
Yes,
before
go
Ramin?
ahead.
Okay, are you serious?
Yeah.
Ready? I want to show her this.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Because author to author, and then I'm going to show you. Let me see if this is it right here. Okay.
Whether you are thinking about becoming a restaurateur or you are already in the business, Michael.
Oh my God, what happened? It stopped in the middle of it, Jennifer.
Stopped
I got to start again.
Whether you are thinking about becoming a restaurateur or you are already in the business, Michael Politz has written a must-read, The Food and Beverage Magazine's Guide to Restaurant Success. Pick up your copy today at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Books A Million, or wherever fine books are sold.
Well, that's needed now more than ever, right? I mean, there's so many people who are going to have to reinvent themselves or figure out what to do after COVID. And I love that the narrator said restaurateur the right way instead of putting that N in there.
We're going to send you a book from the publisher Wiley. You're familiar with Wiley. You're familiar with them, right? Wiley.
Of course. Wonderful.
Well, you're an influencer. We're going to put you on our influencer list. Jennifer, can we get the address for Ramin?
Right. Well, thank you for having me.
Why is she smiling like that? It's bizarre. She's like gushing. Look at her. What's wrong, Jennifer? What was in the pad thai? What was in the pad thai that you made?
I know.
Nutmeg.
Nutmeg. That's right. Well, it's so nice.
Thank you, Ramin. We're going to stay with Ethan for a minute, Jen, because I want to go over a few things with him, and I want to hear about some more of his projects that he's working on in the future.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
To meet you, Ethan.
Nice
Good luck.
to meet you, Ramin. It was nice to see you.
You too. Bye-bye, everybody.
Ethan's you're going to get her books, aren't you? I know you. You already wrote her name down. You're ready to go.
Yep.
I know how you work.
Yep.
I know how you work. Or you're going to get some Unite Foods bars too, right? Because Clara would have it no other way.
I have that on my notepad right here. Yeah.
You do? Oh, well, you're going to have to.
What's your signature recipe? What's your signature dish?
Well, my signature is good old chicken Alfredo. I do.
Look at her chomping on that pad thai.
Yes, I'm kind of jealous. I wish I had.
I know. Ethan, do you think you could figure out a way to get the kitchen set up so you could film and talk to us at the same time whilst you're cooking?
I think I could do that. Actually, I think I could do that on my next episode. If I was to ever return here, I think I could maybe find a way to set it up here. Yes.
Would you do that for us? Because we would love for you to recipe test with us.
Sure, absolutely.
Ooh. Would we really? That would be so fun.
Yes.
Ethan would be, because I watch his Instagrams, and I may be the most important person watching his eating. I understand that, and Ethan knows that. Yeah. Have you ordered my book, Ethan? Have you told your friends?
I am spreading the word very slowly. I am going to do it as soon as I'm done with this. I have my Barnes & Noble right across the street. I'm going to get the book.
Well, you got to call first because of the COVID. They're not sure. I'm not sure what shipped. So call first. Make sure it's not that location.
Yeah. And for people watching, make sure you call before you go. Make sure your Barnes & Noble has it.
Jennifer, what advice do you have for the young teen?
I have to tell you, as a young person who was a little bit precocious, I did my first radio broadcast when I was 9 years old. And it was like a glimpse at the future. And what I can tell you is when you are lucky enough to tap into something that is the true essence of who you are, the way Chef Ethan has, and you're lucky enough to find something that makes your heart happy, you are so rich when you have that and you're aware of it and you embrace it.
He's rich anyway, but that's irrelevant. She meant rich with richness.
Yes.
With spirituality, not rich with wealth, like your grandmother is.
Rich soul.
Well,
rich soul.
I'm gonna understand that you know what I mean. The other thing that I want to urge you to do in the world of food, and we've talked about this before, one of the hardest things to do is to whatever you are making, to get to the standard that I call irresistible.
Oh, Jennifer,
And
there
once
it is.
you get to irresistible, the second hardest thing in food is to keep producing at that irresistible level so that it's irresistible every time. That's one of the hardest things to do, because it means in the first place that you have to have the awareness and the discernment and the connoisseurship to make that happen.
Correct. My father does that same analogy. I'm glad you brought that analogy up. My father does the same thing with my school and stuff. He's like, it's one thing to get straight A's. It's another thing to keep them. I can put those right together with the cooking. Anybody can cook. But there's that specific level. If you want to keep your high standard, you got to keep going at it. You got to be consistent with it. That's the hard part.
The second lesson I'll share with you is, if you ever taste something and you don't like it, you have to ask yourself the question, is this the most irresistible example of what it is I'm tasting in the world? Is this the world's best example of that thing? Because if it's not, you are not allowed to say, well, I don't like that thing, because you don't know until you try the world's best example. And then if you don't like it, then don't ever have it again.
Correct.
You can't say you don't like something if you have the worst example of its kind. You do yourself the disservice of maybe rejecting an entire category of favorite foods.
Ethan, show Jennifer the salt that you purchased.
Oh, yeah. So recently I was able to get a hold of some
Maldon. Yeah, the Maldon.
Love Maldon salt.
Yeah.
Love putting it on top of the steak. Gives a nice crunchy contrast. So that way, if you accidentally underseason the meat, you have a chance to put that back in there.
The greatest.
Jen, I have got so many comments coming in on how adorable he is right now. I can't even I'm not even going to show him. But it's like, oh, he's so cute. Oh, he's adorable. How can I hire him? What is his best? I mean, it's you wouldn't believe, but you'll see it later on social media. Ethan, look how he looks away, because he knows this. He's got the confidence, as you would say in France.
I think that's how they say it.
Well, I have one more idea that I would like to share with Chef Ethan, because as a young person, one of the things that I'm most struck by is his self-awareness and his confidence. This is a young person who clearly listens to his gut instincts. And he has a sense about who he is. And that will serve him so brilliantly well. Don't ever try and be anybody else. Just always be yourself, and always trust your gut instinct.
Agreed. Wow. Can I follow that advice too?
It's too late for you, Michael.
Ethan, I think Ethan has known me for many, many years. Have I followed? Is that not the rule I've set for myself? Be who you are, right? It's the most amazing thing.
Yeah.
And Ethan has amazing parents. I mean, his dad's been a little crappy every once in a while, but to me, I mean, he pretends like he doesn't know me, and I went to junior high with the guy. But no, just kidding.
Ethan, what's your favorite food to eat?
Can you repeat that one more time?
What's your favorite food to eat?
My favorite food to eat? Yep, there it is. Steak with Brussels sprouts and mushroom. That is my favorite.
Ooh. And those are not just any mushroom.
Those are cremini mushrooms.
Wow.
Green creminis, and that is roasted Brussels sprouts with pancetta. And that is a nice piece of New York strip with some sour cream on top, because I like a little bit of sour cream on it. And then that other picture that Michael has up there is a creamy cheesy pasta. I can't take credit for this one. I actually got it from a YouTuber. I think his name is Sam the Cooking Guy. I got this from him. It's pasta with some cream, some steamed peas, sauteed a little bit of garlic butter with some spicy Italian sausage, some capicola, and some salami. And it was really good that night.
And earlier this week, Chef, we had Farmer Lee Jones on the show from the Chef's Garden and the Culinary Vegetable Institute. I would love to connect you with Lee Jones for the next time he brings young chefs out, because it's an inspiration to go to his place in Ohio, where they really are the future of food.
Sure.
Let's go back to the peas, Jennifer. That's innovative. People don't put peas on the plate anymore as much as they used to, right? I love a good veal franchise with peas on the side. Okay, Ethan? Yeah. Veal franchise, peas on the side, chicken franchise, peas on the side. You don't, and maybe some mushrooms, a side of mushrooms, right?
Yep.
You don't do that anymore. Now everyone tries to like bring it up to some whack level, and you don't even need to, because Jennifer, we talked about sweet peas the other day, right?
With Lee Jones. They're in season right now. You have to have them.
I mean, they're delicious. I mean, I get mine out of a can, but the way you guys did them were amazing.
Yes.
What's next for you, Ethan? We're going medical school. You're going to stay with chef. You're going to do both. What are you going to do?
So I don't know I don't know what's next for me. First of all, I got to see what college I'm getting into first, and then we'll go from there. But, hopefully from there, I could maybe do cooking on the side, maybe have it, I could still go to medical school. I could do whatever. I could also do cooking on the side. I could be hired by people on the side.
You could own your restaurant. You could own your own restaurant.
I could own my restaurant. Yes. Speaking of restaurants, my uncle, he's really an inspiration for me. He's the executive chef at Bachelor Gulch, Ritz-Carlton in Colorado. And he's one of my many, he's very inspirational towards me. He's, like I said, he's given me, 75 to like 85% of what I know in the culinary world. And he's helped me a lot. He's helped me, make it. And
Jasper's a good guy. Maybe we can have both of them on again together.
That'd be fun.
It would be fun. I'd like to actually do a cook-off. I believe that Ethan can crush.
I made you those awesome burgers in Vegas. You remember those?
I remember that. How could I not? Ethan?
Yes,
you're always invited back to cook.
Yes.
I want to ask Ethan one last question before we let you go. As a young person and a culinarian, the culinary industry has been the hardest hit by the COVID, and the world is so uncertain. 70% of restaurants is the number bandied about restaurants not reopening. I have a really hard question, and I've got to ask it because I think you're a really thoughtful person. I'm so impressed by you, and I really want to know what you think. Yeah. Are you worried right now, or do you think this is an opportunity? What are you thinking about the future right now?
Well, I would say I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried. I am very worried, for the future. But again, given that most of the restaurants are closed, I think it gives people a wonderful opportunity to, learn how to cook. Right. Like, for example, if someone, doesn't know how to cook and all they do is eat out at restaurants, they get chicken parmesan, they get the fish. It would be very good for them to learn how to cook. One of my favorite, vessels to, learn to cook is YouTube. You can YouTube, like if you wanted to do fried chicken, many fried chicken videos on there. Same thing with fish, fish and chips, burgers. Everything is on YouTube. If someone didn't know how to cook and they wanted to learn how to cook, I would say you could use a cookbook, or you could, use some online video platform. That's just. Are
any of your cooking classes on YouTube?
I would say it's half and half. The first half is.
Do you mean that he made, Jennifer? What do you mean?
Yeah. Have you made your own cooking videos to teach us things yet?
I have.
I'm going to tell you that 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds would love learning from a teen chef.
Yeah. So I haven't, like Michael had helped advertise earlier. I do my, every once a week or every other couple of weeks, I'll do something on Instagram. I'll come. It's called Monday Night Makes. It's a little thing on, my Instagram where I make something on a Monday, hence the name Monday Night Makes. And it's just something simple. Like the past week I did, something unusual, like a chamomile tea. You can make a chamomile tea. You can put a lot of stuff into it. And then you can also do like a mac and cheese or a penne alla vodka. All that good stuff. Like I said, next time I'm on here, I'll set up in the kitchen and I'll, we'll go through a whole demo for you.
Jennifer, can we do what we did yesterday with Ethan? Okay. Because yesterday we had Truffle Shuffle, and they have a kit that you go on, they Zoom. And
I can't tell you that Truffle Shuffle will send us stuff, but I bet we can talk to them.
No, I wouldn't have them on again. I wouldn't have them on twice, Jennifer. They're not paying.
I don't care. They're so fantastic. I want to have them on again.
That's adorable of you to want to promote someone like that for no money. Ethan, let's go back to you. It's all about the money, Ethan.
Yes, it is.
The James Beard Award winners, they don't know. They just want the awards. We need the green. All right, Ethan, we love you. We're going to have you back. We thank you.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me. It was great.
Can you get more videos for us? Because we would love to show some. Maybe we'll do some catch-up videos, Jennifer. That would be really fun to watch him while he's doing some stuff. Thank you, Ethan. You're amazing, buddy.
Thank you, guys.
Happy eating.
What'd you think of that kid?
He's a great kid. How do you know this kid?
Come on, don't worry about how I know this kid. What I'm saying is I got an eye. I got an eye for talent, Jennifer.
Got an eye for talent.
When Julia Childs saw you and said, I know Jennifer English, Jennifer, you're going to be a big star. Win an award from my friend Jimmy. I'm telling you, I have that eye. I can pick these kids out. When I picked all those Top Chef winners out, that they're Marcel Vacheron, right? You ever heard of him?
Yeah.
Well, I was helping my friend was a producer of Top Chef. He goes, find me some guys on the show. I was at a trade show. I saw Marcel walking by. I go, dude, you're going to be a new TV star. Guess what? Now he's on Guys Grocery Shopping. And I don't even think Marcel would even remember that I picked him out of obscurity, walking through a trade show as a young culinary student. I discovered him. Tell him. Jet Tila. Jet is on the show with him. I'm going to text Jet right now and let him know. These chefs.
We'll see you tomorrow. Happy cooking, happy eating. Hug your kids and count your blessings.
Thank you.